Join me to discuss this is constitutional lawyer, former JAG officer, and a candidate for the Senate seat in the great state of North Carolina, Don Brown. Don, nice to see you again. Look, election integrity has been the conversation for 5 or 6 years now, maybe longer.
Yeah.
I see Oregon's taking 800,000 old people off the voter rolls. If they can do that in in Oregon and clean up those voter rolls, which they were supposed to do in 2017, they finally got to it after lawsuits. But this lawsuit, allowing people to challenge mail-in ballots in the state of Illinois, is a big deal, isn't it?
It is. Just a decision today by SCOTUS, that is in the case of Bost versus Illinois Board of Elections, being Congressman Mike Bost, is a victory for election integrity. You know, the state of Illinois had a law allowing mail-in ballots to be counted for up to 2 weeks after the election. And you and I both know, Steve, everywhere there's a situation where the vote fairy shows up and they elongate these things for weeks and weeks and weeks. Isn't it interesting how the Democrats always win, even though they don't have a dominant, registration advantage in many cases? When you go back to the 2020 election to put this into context, most of those cases were dismissed on standing. The court has now said the congressman has standing to bring this lawsuit ahead of the counting to challenge it, and that's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, the state that's the most egregious in what you just mentioned about counting weeks later is California. I mean, it's 6, 7, 8 weeks later, and suddenly at the end, you know, the Republicans have been leading the entire time, and suddenly at the end, just by a few votes, the Democrats magically seem to win those seats every single time, Don. Is it coincidence or is it corruption?
When you see, when there's smoke, there's fire. And when it happens every time, over and over, I call it the vote fairy. You saw it in 2020 when right there in Detroit, the TCF Center, they were counting votes shut down 10 o'clock. It's over 6 states and the vote fairy shows up. Trump was winning in a landslide, and here it happens. Yeah. The guy that I'm going to take out in the U.S. Senate race in November, Roy Cooper, allegedly defeated the former Republican Governor Pat McCrory in North Carolina. McCrory was leading by several thousand votes, and then in Durham County, the most corrupt Democrat county in this state, the vote fairy shows up. And this Congressman Bost, was right to step in, and I'm very, very pleased. By the way, the court rules 7-2 in favor of the congressman in this case. Even Elena Kagan came in and supported the conservatives. You had Brown Jackson and Sotomayor, of course, into the Senate, as they always would be. But I think that this is going to give us more tools to try to start to cut back on some of this crazy vote cheating that goes on in the county that we've been seeing.
The operative word there, Don, was crazy. And I'd like to end this segment with a little bit of fun. Speaking of, BS crazy, you know what they say in North Carolina, right? The Supreme Court heard arguments this week on transgender athletes competing in women's sports. You see, the Democrats still don't have any idea the difference between a man and a woman. And so yesterday on Capitol Hill, I saw this video. I could not believe it. Senator Josh Hawley, who I hope you'll be joining there in the Senate, was trying to get a simple yes or no answer from an OBGYN doctor, liberal activist. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding.
Oh, she did, Don. That went on for 5.5 minutes. She would not answer the question. She's an OBGYN who should be stripped of her medical license today, in my estimation. Last word to you.
I agree with you. Josh did a good job sticking with common sense questions. And this is what these liberals do. They'll up-talk, rush you to make fun of these up-talkers, never answer the question. But we've got a member of the Supreme Court, Brown Jackson, who would not even answer a question about what's a man or what's a woman, And this is what liberals do. They just go off on these crazy rails. And it's the reason they're losing. North Carolina has just, by the way, good news here. This Republican registration has eclipsed Democrat registration in North Carolina. We now have more registered Republicans in this state. And it's because of junk just like that. And I appreciate you pointing it out, Steve. I really do.
Yeah, remarkable exchange. All right, tell them where they can find you, Don.
Please go to brown4nc.com, running for United States Senate, Brown, FORNC.com. We're coming to crunch time. The primary is March 3rd. We're going to take this primary. We're going to defeat Mike Whatley. We're going to take Roy Cooper out, and we're going to bring common sense back to the floor of the U.S. Senate, join Josh Hawley and others, the handful of a few that really have their heads screwed on straight. We're going to be there with them.
All right, Don. Thank you for being here as always. Wish you well on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.